Hello, my name is John Van Eerden, and today I will be giving a presentation on the article America's Hottest Export, Weapons. Let's start off with a quote from Jimmy Carter. He states, "Can we be both the world's leading champion of peace and the world's leading supplier of the weapons of war?" In my speech, I will help you better understand why we simply cannot ignore the world's need for weapons and our need to sell the weapons to them. I will also explain Carter's motivation to selling weapons. Motivation can be described as a set of energetic forces that originates both within and outside an employee, initiates work-related effort, and determines its direction, intensity, and persistence. In Carter's case, moreover, though, the equity theory, which can be described as motivation doesn't just depend on your own beliefs and circumstances, but also on what happens to other people. Let's jump into this presentation with an explanation of the GDP. The GDP stands for consumer spending plus investments plus government spending plus exports minus imports. We will be focusing on the export portion of this. So what is an export? An export means to ship commodities to other countries or places for sale, exchange, etc. So what are these weapons we sell to foreign countries such as Israel, United Arab Emirates, India, Saudi Arabia, and much more of the Middle East? A few examples of these weapons are the B-2 bomber, the F-22, and the Apache helicopter. From 2007 to 2010, the Department of Defense requested $180 billion for weapons exports. That amounts to $45 billion a year, a rise from $13 billion a year between 95 and 05. The Department of Defense must have had a high job satisfaction, which is a pleasurable emotional state resulting from the appraisal of one's job or job experience. What's more is last year alone, the Department of Defense told Congress of plans to sell up to $103 billion in weapons to overseas buyers. The Department of Defense is autonomous with weapons selling. Autonomy can be described as the degree to which the job provides freedom, independence, and discretion to the individual performing the work. So let's take a look at this pie chart to further grasp how much exports affect the U.S. GDP. In 2010, the U.S. GDP was made up of 10% exports, and 10% of the exports was from weapons selling. So that means 1% of the U.S. GDP comes directly from weapons selling. Most macroeconomists consider the GDP as an indicator of a nation's standard of living. This is said due to the underlying principle that all citizens would benefit from their country's increased economic production. With the money received from exports, not only does our GDP go up by 1%, but our standard of living goes up by 1% as well. In order to view this in a different light, let me explain the value percept theory, which means job satisfaction depends on whether you perceive that your job supplies the things that you value. So this 1% increase in standard of living gave Carter the equity theory motivation to continue his support in selling weapons. To close my presentation, let us go back to the words of Jimmy Carter, who said, "Sometimes we try to justify this unsavory business on the cynical ground that by rationing out the means of violence we can somehow control the world's violence. The fact is we cannot." Thank you.